No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 393, a special edition of the show as we continue our countdown of the 50 worst of 2025. We got through 10 of them yesterday, and there's still 40 more to go, folks. And trust me, there has been so much to choose from this year. What a year it has been. I mean, we were introduced to the new toothless Green Party leader, the tit whisperer, Zack Polanski.
This is Zack Polanski, a.k.a. the breast whisperer.
He came to you and said, can you make my breast bigger through hypnotherapy? And you said, yes, and gave it a go.
Yes, Zack is a 43-year-old hypnotist who has tried to grow the size of women's breasts by hypnotizing.
And Meghan Markle unleashed the worst TV show in history onto our screens.
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and loves it.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now.
So to dissect what has been one hell of a year, Russell Quirk, newly elected to Reform UK, media superstar, of course, one of our favourites here on Outspoken, and the political strategist, presenter on Talk TV, Peter C. Barnes. So great to have you both here. What a year. What a year.
Right.
Where to start?
Yeah. I don't know how you got it down to the final 50. Because there were loads and loads and loads more kind of hot and hideous news topics of the year, weren't there, in terms of how this year has kind of panned out. So, I'm surprised it's only 50. You could have easily done a top 100, I think.
Yes. I know the Queen had us horribilis, but my God, ours has been terrible.
This is like the Annus Horribilis for Great Britain.
The revenge is what I'm calling it this year.
Sadly, though, things could get even worse. But anyway, we're going to get into the countdown very shortly. Just to note, no live uncancelled after show today, but all of the royal content is available for you over on my Substack, www.outspoken.live. We will be live again from Monday, and on Monday, the return of Greatest Britain and Union Jackass as well. But now, let's go. And we're kicking off at number 40, which is one of those sort of bum-clenchingly awful moments that at the same time you just love to see. Do you remember when President Trump humiliated slippery Starmer in front of the world in one of the most mortifying political clips I have ever seen? Watch.
Where's the United Kingdom? Where's Russia? Where? Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
It's very nice that you're here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice, and I think it's fantastic. And we have so many others, and just so many others. And
Peter, even now, you're still actually covering your face even all of these weeks on.
I can't watch that. The embarrassment, the second-hand embarrassment that we get through watching that. But also, it's an embarrassment to the nation. And like, Keir Starmer represents us on the world stage. Just think of that as a sentence right now. It is absolutely shocking. At first, I thought he handled the relationship with Trump rather well, better than expected. But it's just the kind of simpering, like, the way he paws over him and like, he's my friend and all that kind of thing. It's just pathetic.
And that wasn't a mistake. Lots of people at the time said, oh, we think, that was just the heat of the moment. Trump's obviously a busy guy, and maybe he didn't do it on purpose. Of course he did. That was a huge snub. He doesn't like Keir Starmer. He pretends, of course, on the world stage that he does. He doesn't like Starmer or anything that Starmer stands for, particularly over the whole free speech stuff.
And there's been a change, hasn't there, Russell? And I think this is what's really important to talk about because it is the news, I guess. To begin with, earlier this year, your leader, Nigel Farage, had been left out in the cold by the Trump administration. I think there are a couple of reasons behind that. First, Elon Musk. And that caused a lot of issues. But of course, then there was the split between Elon Musk and Trump. But also because Trump wanted to feel as if he was doing the right thing, right? Feel as if, okay, this is the democratically elected leader of the United Kingdom. I've got to give him a chance. But by the end of the year, where we are now, Trump is right back in there. Secret meetings at Mar-a-Lago, secret meetings at the White House, and Trump almost actively lobbying for your party, Reform UK. It's quite an astonishing turnaround.
Well, it is, and look, it shouldn't be news to anybody, should it? That the politics, the ideology of Trump and the current Republicans in the US and Reform are pretty identical, really. You know, particularly when it comes to things like the economy, particularly when it comes to things like immigration and borders, and of course crime. So, of course, they're going to be aligned. I don't think there was ever any particular calling of that relationship. Maybe we weren't perhaps paying the attention that we might otherwise have done. But look, those two are very unified indeed. I think it's fair to say.
Let me bring Peter in, our reform skeptic.
Yes,
I think we could say. See, I disagree with Russell there. I think there was absolutely a calling, because what you've got to remember, Peter, is earlier this year, Farage was saying no to mass immigrations. You're crazy to want to deport, 500,000 people. There's been a big change on that, because you've seen the Trump administration say, no, mass deportations are absolutely critical, not just to saving Europe, but to saving the West. And Reform have had to go further to the right than where they previously were.
Oh, without a shadow of doubt on pretty much every issue. Let's look at the 2-child benefit cap as well. At one point, Nigel was all in favour of scrapping that. I mean, he said, I don't need to do my sums. There's a big turnaround with Nigel. But
Still is, isn't he, Russell?
But I do think it's because there's the reality.
No, I will comment. I don't agree. Hey, I'm just going to tell it how it is. This is unusual for a politician not to take the party line 100% hook, line and sinker. I don't agree with the party on that. I think that the cap should be in place, because I don't think, I'm old-fashioned, I don't think that people that work hard should be subsidising feckless people that want to sit at home watching reruns of Home and Away.
This is my big problem, is that Nigel says one thing one day and another the next day, because if you look at the grooming gangs...
You think he's the only politician that does
but then the guy who's supposed to be changing politics is doing the same thing as the Uni Party. Reform are nothing but the Uni Party.
But hang on, let me just kind of correct the record here a little bit. It's not that Reform are on the right. I mean, they are a right-wing party, but centre-right, I would
thought you were the real Conservatives.
We are Conservatives with a small c. Basically, Reform are Thatcherites. I'm a Thatcherite, unashamedly. Yes, she was a Conservative. I'll tell you what, if Thatcher was now in politics, she'd be in the Reform Party, not the Conservatives, because the Conservatives have lurched to the left. It's not that Reform have lurched to the right all of a sudden. It's that the Conservative Party with a big C are very much on the left of the political spectrum.
Interesting. Well, look, it's also been a crazy year on the hard left. And at number 39 in our countdown was the moment when the tit whisperer Zack Polanski became leader of the Green Party. Here's Reform UK's Zia Youssef summing up this madman perfectly. Watch.
This is Zack Polanski, aka the Breast Whisperer.
He came to you and said, can you make my breast bigger through hypnotherapy? And you said yes, and gave it a go.
Yes, Zack is a 43-year-old hypnotist who has tried to grow the size of women's breasts by hypnotizing them. He's also the leader of the Green Party, who are now the second most popular party in the country. So it's kind of important you know what other insane things this man believes. Zack believes that this country should have no borders whatsoever. Not more immigration or more asylum. This guy literally wants Britain to have no borders at all. He wants to stand down and destroy Britain's nuclear deterrent while Vladimir Putin marauds through Ukraine. And when challenged on this, he simply said he would ask Vladimir Putin nicely to give up his weapons too.
I want to see everyone denuclearize, including Vladimir Putin.
I'm laughing at the idea that Vladimir Putin is going to give up his nuclear weapons because somebody asks him to.
He wants to legalize all drugs and outlaw landlords. So in Zack Polanski's Britain, it is legal to sell crack cocaine, heroin and fentanyl, but illegal to rent your flat out. And if you object to any of his policies, he very reasonably simply calls you a fascist.
Fascism, fascist, fascist, fascism, fascism, fascism.
Fascism! In short, Zack is a lunatic, and such has been the demise of the Tories and Labour that he's currently in second place.
I mean, Peter, I think that is one area that we can both agree with Zia Youssef. This man, Zack Polanski, is a lunatic. But I do think there were certain moments in the year that we saw his true colours. I mean, what about when he appeared on Question Time and said the only reason that we actually want all of these illegals in the country is to wipe the bums of our elderly? That was a true colours moment, wasn't
definitely. I always go back to just after the Brexit referendum, there was the lady in the Question Time audience who said, well, who's going to serve him my coffee in Pret?
Yes.
The snobbery and the arrogance of these people always trips them up. But the problem of this Polanski guy is, He's dangerous idiot, but he's still dangerous. If you actually look at the split on the left, he's going to hold a lot of power potentially. And that's my problem, is that we keep laughing at him and he's a bit of a joke for people like us, but people are voting for him. The membership of the Greens has surged. The voting base has surged. A smart strategist could do a lot of work with the Green Party, and that's terrifying.
Big time. I couldn't agree more. I actually don't view Zack Polanski as a joke, Russell, at all. I think he is a huge danger because I do believe that there could be a moment in the polls where the Green Party, and you're not going to want to hear this, but let's just see over the next year, overtake Reform UK. I would not be surprised because I think can you just hear me out as to why? Because I think what's going to happen, Russell, is that the Labour vote is going to go further down under Starmer. And I think the Conservative vote won't decline anymore. I think the Conservatives have already sort of hit their low moment. Do you see what I'm saying?
Let's wait until May next year and the elections that, actually the government and certain Conservative county administrations might actually let us have in this country to exercise our democratic rights as citizens to vote for our local representatives. Let's see what happens then, because I suspect what you'll see is that the Conservatives will be further decimated, as will Labour. So I think we are seeing the decline of the uni party. And yes, the two parties, the two entities that obviously will pick up the slack are Reform, which absolutely they are, unbelievably strong in the polls, and not just in the polls, but in terms of the by-elections that are being won. The majority of by-elections since May have been won by Reform. So look, Zack Polanski, not his real name, by the way. His real name is Dave.
Yeah.
Dave.
And he looks like a Dave.
He looks like a Dave.
Like
but
a Dave.
Let's just be very clear. So yes, he is getting some traction because he has, even though he's an irritant, he has got some personality. He reminds me a bit of the New York mayor, Mandami, who has also got some charisma, but also lied to get into office.
Yes.
He's saying exactly the same things as Mandami. So be careful what you wish for, because those that
he's an Islamist
like fluffy windmills and solar panels and all this green stuff, Zack Polanski, Dave, doesn't talk about green issues. He doesn't talk about windmills. He doesn't talk about solar panels. What he talks about is communism. Communism.
Yeah, the
that's
thing that
what
annoys me is he makes me miss Caroline Lucas, and I think that's just a crime in itself.
Yeah.
No, I mean, when she looked okay, I mean, what are we saying about our politics now?
But any left-wing lunatic, and there are some of these in the Labour Party, of course, and of course in the Your, Our, His, Their party, whatever it's called. Have they settled on a name as we shoot this? I don't know. Maybe they've changed it again.
Yeah, Your party. I mean,
given that Corbyn and Sultana can't even get in the same room together.
Actually, and that's why I think that Polanski is now the biggest threat, because I think that Your Party conference a few weeks ago was actually so diabolical, so
Farcical.
embarrassing, such a farce that it's impossible to see them rising much higher. Whereas I think they could have. That would have been actually good news for the Labour Party.
So the big thing for me on the left, and anyone on the left that's watching this, and I'm sure you have some that kind of,
they hate
watch.
They're in the chat now saying that I'm a Nazi and saying that you're far right.
Me and Peter too, yeah. You have to be very, very careful of anybody on the left that starts talking about how fantastic it is that all the wealth creators, the business owners and the employers are going to sod off abroad. And I've seen it on Twitter this week from a Labour MP. Good, they say. Well, hang on. These people pay the vast majority of income tax into the UK system. If they go, and so does the bloody money. So Zack Polanski wants to basically write out cheques that he won't be able to cash if he were ever to come to power. But I don't think it's going to happen.
I also think he's being boosted a lot by the BBC because he never seems to be off the thing.
Oh, he's on all the time.
Yeah. He cancelled an appearance on Have I Got News for You to go on Question Time.
And it was that terrible episode of Question Time, remember, a few weeks back, where a migrant was actually planted in the audience wearing an earpiece.
Yeah.
There you go. Look, at number 38, one of the most diabolical fuck-ups from this Britain-hating government as they accidentally released Haboosh Kabato, that 41-year-old sex-attacking migrant from prison, sparking a manhunt that lasted nearly 48 hours despite the fact that he was caught on camera multiple times.
The convicted sex offender Hadush Kabatu, who was released from prison in error, has been arrested in North London. The search for the asylum seeker had entered its third day when members of the public alerted officers to his whereabouts in the Finsbury Park area at around 8:30 this morning. It's understood the Ethiopian seemed to be confused when he was directed to the train station by prison staff following his release from HMP Chelmsford on Friday afternoon. Kabatu was serving a 12-month sentence after sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl and a woman while being housed at the Bell Hotel in Epping. The Met Police says Kabatu will be returned to the prison ahead of his deportation.
I mean, Russell, this was truly one of those you can't make it up moments. Of course, Calamity Lammy, absolutely behind it. You just know if that had been a Conservative minister, he would be gone. He would have been hounded out from his job. But of course, because it's DEI hire Lammy, the most, I genuinely mean this, the most shameful politician we have ever had in this country. I genuinely mean that. Now Deputy Prime Minister. Remember, he called us Nazis for voting Brexit. You know, I can't just move on from that. And yet he's still in his job.
Yeah, so one of the most over-promoted ministers
most.
that there has ever been.
The most.
Although Diane Abbott was in cabinet, I think, wasn't she? At some point.
I think she was in the shadow cabinet.
Shadow cabinet, maybe, yes.
She was
they never actually made the cabinet, thank God.
Yeah, well, and Angela Rayner, I mean, look, you've got to count her as being woefully over-promoted as well. So look, Gabata...
I genuinely think Lammy's thicker than Rayner.
Yeah. Well,
genuinely.
No, I guess, and of course, we've heard recently over the last few weeks that she's coming back. She served her penance on the back benches for about 10 minutes, and now she's coming back.
That would be a 2026 story, honestly, Rayner's comeback.
But how can you? It would never happen in the private sector, Dan, would it? That someone would do something as in tax avoidance and humiliate the front bench, the Labour government, and then be allowed back a few weeks later.
Done.
Yeah, I know. So look, Kabatu, let's be clear, this wasn't the only guy. I mean, obviously, this is very topical because of the offence that he committed. What he did, of course, sparked all of the protests. It started with the Bell Hotel.
He was the most famous sex attacker, the most famous illegal in the country,
for
yet
all
they
the wrong reasons.
Got rid of him.
But you say you can't make it up. This is like it's being written by Armando Iannucci, who's written things like Veep and The Thick of It. It's almost as if he scripted this stuff. Not only does he get let out early, he tries to get back into the prison. He's almost banging on the door saying, hey, I don't think I should be let out. Can you let me in, please? No, off you go. In the end, after 3 attempts, they give him directions to the station. He ends up wandering into Chelmsford city centre, which, by the way, is my nearest big town, and has to start asking members of the public how to get on a train, and then ends up wandering around London, of course, for 3 days. The police then arrest him and say, isn't it great that as a consequence of this wonderful operation that we've orchestrated as Essex and Metropolitan Police, we found him? Well, they didn't, did they?
No.
It was a member of the public that saw him. Bearing in mind the video we see of him in Hackney Library, he's still in his prison pyjamas, holding a bag with a massive avocado printed on the side. You literally couldn't make this stuff up. It's comedy and would be if it wasn't so bloody serious.
And where was David Lammy, Peter, that day?
Oh, he was getting a new suit and he was having a tailored suit made, wasn't he?
He said it was the suit.
Yeah.
Right? But then Guido Fawkes, he said that in PMQs. Then Guido Fawkes actually revealed what he was doing was giving a woke sermon to civil service staff, there it is, about black careers to mark Black History Month.
Oh, and that guy's Deputy Prime Minister. At some point, you're kind of supporting the Russians to just take us over because I don't think we deserve it anymore if we've got him and the rest of this. But the thing that really gets me when it comes to the releases, they gave him money so he would be deported. That's the staggering thing, is they didn't just let him go. They gave him taxpayer money so he could actually be deported. Because the government came out and said, oh, we're definitely going to get him deported. They don't have the power to do that. And yet here we are again, just funding and funding and funding. And the people of Epping, I tell you what, they are heroes in my eyes on this. I mean, those protests have been phenomenally powerful.
Yeah. Let's remember as well that we've had a number of people let out by accident, but the government earlier on this year did also let out a number of people on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
That were sex offenders and rapists, murderers.
And of course, no jury trials now.
And many of those people, funnily enough, surprise, surprise, who knew this would happen, reoffended almost immediately, particularly those that have been convicted of domestic abuse. Absolutely disgusting.
No, it really was. It really was. And number 37 on our countdown, when the despicable Loose Women show at Woke ITV, a show that, by the way, claims to care about women and women's issues, decided to cancel a rape gang survivor, my friend Sammy Woodhouse, from appearing on their show using the death of Linda Nolan as the excuse to do so, even though that was a big fat lie. Now, this was incredibly difficult for Sammy, who was already on the train to London to appear. Watch.
Evening, everyone. So I'm just on my way down to London, so I'm on the train, so I apologise if it's a little bit noisy. I'm going to be on Loose Women tomorrow. I've not been on for years, actually. But yes, I'm going to be talking about some of the stuff that's been going on the last few weeks, hopefully a little bit about my documentary as well. So tune in tomorrow, 12:30, ITV, to Loose Women, and I shall see you all very soon.
But Peter, I did a lot of research on this story to work out what was really going on because I smelt a rat, as did Sammy. And it was a total bullshit, this Linda Nolan excuse. It had nothing to do with the death of Linda Nolan. What happened is that higher-ups at Loose Women and Woke ITV had decided that Sammy Woodhouse, someone who they had previously championed, was now unpalatable because she had previously worked for Urban Scoop being an organisation in the independent media run by, wait for it, Tommy Robinson. So, of course, if you have any connection to Tommy Robinson, according to Woke ITV, you should be cancelled, even if you're a rape gang survivor like Sammy Woodhouse. To me, that is despicable. It is disgusting. It is a new low, but it is how they operate, Peter.
Yeah, it's repugnant in every way, but it's Loose Women. And no good story starts with this one time on Loose Women. It's like The View. Nothing good ever comes out of these shows.
No.
They just attract controversy because they have no moral fibre. That's why. I mean, what happened to this woman was absolutely horrific. And yet this was a kick in the teeth for her. You know, it would have taken a great amount of strength to come on a show to talk about these kinds of issues. And yet ITV just said, oh no, because of one connection, a very loose connection to Tommy Robinson. So therefore you got the Scarlet Letter and you're not allowed to talk about it, anything. It's just perverse.
It's pretty disgraceful for her to have been encouraged to spend time and money getting to the studio and then to cancel her.
On a lie, by the way,
on a lie.
Because they blamed it on the death of Linda Nolan. It was nothing to do with that.
Also, that's really disrespectful to Linda Nolan.
It is, and her Linda Nolan's team were furious about it.
But isn't it also really kind of symbolic of all that's wrong with the mainstream media now? And I know you talk about this a lot, as you should, you know, because they're not representative anymore. It's the ultimate gaslighting, isn't it? Because you want somebody on to talk about the reality, the truth of those, let's tell it how it is, Dan, Pakistani Muslim rape gangs. But of course, if you were to say that now on mainstream media, you would probably be pulled off, so to speak, because you've said Pakistani and Muslim. Now, the reality is the vast majority of these crimes have been carried out by that demographic. But of course, you're not supposed to say it because it might trigger some cultural unrest, some unpopularity. So therefore, you've now got ITV, BBC, Sky, Channel 4 and so on, turning their back on truth, turning their back on reality, not wanting to talk about the reality of who it was that was perpetrating those particular crimes. And Sammy, who should be lauded. I mean, she should
100%.
literally be celebrated for standing up and having the damn courage to talk about this. Cancelled by ITV.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
It really is. And of course, Peter, this is why the mainstream media are dying on its ass. And it's why I actually celebrated what happened with Loose Women this year, effectively axed for half the year. Why do you think that's happened, Peter? Because they no longer represent the working classes that Woke ITV were meant to represent. I mean, I worked there on ITV Daytime for 10 years, and I was proud that we were the channel of the working classes, but everything changed near the end of my time at ITV. It's when Piers Morgan was sacked for attacking Meghan Markle as well, and they have gone down
for telling the truth about Meghan Markle.
And that's the point.
Telling the truth.
My thing
What
is...
did I say?
You said for attacking her.
Yeah.
He told the truth.
Yeah,
it came out as what he said was completely
I mean,
accurate.
by the way, I didn't think there was anything wrong with that attack.
But this is the point.
Right,
it's not the lie. It's the gaslighting. It's the fact that we can see it with our own eyes. We know what it is, but yet we're being told that that's not happening. And more importantly, you're a bad person for seeing what is happening. It's that extra bit that I find really, really problematic. And it's just affected so many of the mainstream now.
But Pete, it's that very dynamic that allowed the grooming gangs to prosper for 30 or 40 years. Let's not talk about
100%.
it. Whether they were police officers or the local councillors, council officers, social workers, it's because they buried the truth that it allowed these rapists to carry on ruining thousands of girls'
They carry
lives.
on doing it with the grooming gangs inquiring, all the scandal around that. And I use Sarah Sharif, the young 10-year-old girl. Identity politics killed that girl.
That was appalling.
And that's the reality of it, because of this culture of don't say anything because you might offend.
That was absolutely appalling. Her teachers, even too afraid to talk about why all of a sudden she had a hijab on, hiding her injuries. Oh, because we might be called culturally insensitive. We might be called racist. And this is the problem. Now, look, on a very similar note, at number 36 this year, that wannabe anti-white Loose Women, although even they don't want her, Narinder Kaur, who was humiliated on live television by Judge Rob Rinder for telling not just porcupines, but flat-out lies about the claims she made of the lack of Indian food in Italy. This was beautiful to watch, so let's see it again.
Order for a second, Narinder. Let me just bring it back into for one question I've got. You know, you were there for about a week, right?
Yes.
Now, you could have gone to, presumably, other cuisines. I mean, why
No,
did
there
you...
was actually, that's the other point.
Yeah.
Now, when tourists come to London, we don't offer them fish and chips for the entire week, do we?
Right.
We offer, the world is global. Italy, it's like, where is the, where's the Indian food?
Just to be clear, right?
Right.
Because I just wanted to check this, but you might be right. There were no other international cuisines. It was pasta or pizza or the lot.
Nonsense.
Just
It's
have a look at
So
this.
look, I have been there.
So people can see. This, I'm going to put it here. So
There we
you can have a
go.
look. These are the different restaurants. There are 2,453 restaurants in Sicily, 17 Indian, 21 Mexican, 102 Japanese. And if you want
Not
to
in Taormina.
you're quite
Not
sure
in
about that?
Taormina.
Okay,
100%
not
sure.
in Taormina,
No.
says Narinder. Narinder, I put this to you.
Oh, there you go.
No,
Hang on,
no,
There you go.
no.
Where you were,
No.
you could have chosen between 3 Indian restaurants.
There wasn't.
7, hang on a second.
Oh, they haven't
7
made it up,
Mexican
Narinder.
and
This is
5
what happens.
Japanese
Well, I'm
restaurants.
not blind.
Just if you were worried,
Yes.
you could have even gone for a Big Mac.
I wouldn't go for a McDonald's, so I do like to go and enjoy the cuisine. In Thailand, I could have ate pad
Well,
thai
hang on, answer
every
that.
day because
Go
it's
to
good.
Thailand, then.
The point is, Italian food in Sicily, my experience was not good. I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you. You're good-looking people. You're very stylish and you're very kind and welcome, but your food is pants.
Now, this was an incredible moment, Peter, because Narinder Kaur has been race baiting now as a grift, I believe, for the last couple of years. That's her friend, that show, Jeremy Vine. They love her. They put her on all the time. And even they had to reveal she's just a liar.
Yeah.
She's just a liar. I'm sorry, she went to Italy and she lied. And they proved that she lied. And after that, for me, her credibility is shot on all of these issues because what it's proven is that she is race baiting, she is grifty.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. My partner's Italian, and if he ever saw that clip, my God help her. Because the idea that Italian food isn't good, this woman is just mental. But again, this is the point, is we've made a profit, we've made an industry for these people, and they're just going to keep doing it and doing it and doing it, because she's not the only one. And unfortunately, they keep being given platforms, and they've got to stop. But sometimes people like Narinder, you just kind of wind them up and let them take themselves down. The trick is don't indulge them, because they always bring themselves. The thing for me with her was when she had to go Kate Middleton, and her brother, and the comments that she made and all that stuff. Even then, it just showed it wasn't about a principle. It was just she wants the attention. And I try not to pay attention to her if I can help it.
She suggested that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, was looking older.
Yeah.
And of course, she posted that the moment that she had just been through months and months of serious treatment for cancer.
She's a repulsive race-baiting troll, is what she is. Yeah. I used to spar with her on X. I've met her a couple of times at GB News and elsewhere. So I used to, just if I had a quiet moment, just for my own fun and sport, I would kind of go into a debate that she was having, and it might be, museums are racist, the countryside's racist, food is racist, everything's racist.
There's a common theme.
As far as
there's a common theme when
but
it comes
anyway,
to
but here's the thing, I don't think you know this. So I have a kind of quite a love-hate relationship with her. I actually think even though she's dangerous and she's pathetic, she's someone to laugh at, not with, but she's the subject of comedy, in my view. A couple of weekends ago, I was asked to do Radio 5 Live late one Saturday night, so I agreed. And at the last minute, they told me that my opponent was going to be Narinder Kaur. So I immediately, within that debate about whatever it was, I think it was about what's racist and what isn't, I did call her to her face, albeit down the line, a race baiter. I got berated by the 5 Live presenter, who obviously hadn't done his research very much. And it turns out now, since I have now been, and this is a wonderful shot in the arm for me, a wonderful, wonderful fillip and claim to fame, an accolade almost, she has blocked me on X.
So, because you call Narinder Kaur a race baiter, you get blocked?
Yep.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Bloody
Welcome
hell.
to 2025.
Yeah. but to be clear, I'm delighted.
I think that story is this year in one moment, really, isn't it? Just the bizarre.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so is this, because at number 35, there was chilling footage leaked online of a Your Party event as Jeremy Corbyn was seen sitting happily listening to Iqbal Muhammad. Now, he is this Islamist sectarian member of the United Kingdom Parliament, outlining the party's plan of an Islamic takeover of the UK. I'm really not exaggerating. Watch.
These events, these activities, this unity must grow and continue and take over not just parts of Birmingham, but the whole of Birmingham, the whole of the West Midlands, the whole of the UK. Grassroots democracy in action. And we, our communities, have shown the establishment and the rest of the country that we will not be taken for granted, and we will win. The establishment know that if you let one person stand up to them and speak the truth to people about what power is doing to them, then more people will stand up, and there will come a point when we all stand up against oppression, against injustice, and against corruption in politics. You see the power of solidarity. You see the power of solidarity, the power of all of us together. Individually, we may feel helpless, lonely, often frightened. Together, nothing can stop us. No tyrant can rule us. No party, government, or dictator can demand from us subservience. Together, we are powerful. Remember that and take that message onto the streets of Birmingham and share it with every single person you know in this country and abroad.
So, Russell, I think we can sometimes laugh absolutely at a Narinder Kaur. We can sometimes laugh even at a Zack Polanski, as you said earlier, even though he is dangerous. But this is truly chilly.
It's sinister, isn't it?
This is the Islamist threat to the United Kingdom. They do want to take over. The fact that that man is already an MP should terrify everyone. Yet the mainstream media totally ignored this leaked footage because it doesn't suit their agenda.
Yeah, it is very, very sinister. It's almost a call to arms, isn't
100%.
it? You know, I'm not suggesting that what he said was across the line from a legal perspective, but it's not far off.
We know what he's saying.
Encouraging an uprising. And of course...
And we're not going to start...
No, but
we might start in the West Midlands, but we're not finishing in the West Midlands.
We're going to take the whole country. And of course, so those of us that have said the following words about, those that come here on boats illegally, the huge influx of migration now, which is very, very different in demographic terms to the migration to this country that we had, let's say, 20 or 30 years ago, which was largely from the likes of Africa and Eastern Europe and so on. When people like me call it an invasion, again, the mainstream media try and cut our legs off and say that's an outrageous thing to say. How dare you? Well, I'll tell you, when it comes to the boats, they may come 500 to 1,000 at a time per day. But if they all rocked up at the same time down at Dover, 50,000 fighting age men all at the same time, mainly from Muslim countries, actually, it seems, the likes of Syria, Afghanistan and so on. If 50,000 arrived as if it was some kind of reverse D-Day or Dunkirk, we would definitely call it an invasion. What I'd note from that video, though, where were the women? Hardly any women, if any, in that audience. And that should tell people something, that obviously this is a call to arms from a faith that believes that women are second-class citizens. They're not even good enough or fit enough to sit in an audience to listen to the call to arms
100%.
itself, which I think, women watching, all women of all faiths, all colours, all creeds, should think, hang on a sec, that's definitely not a Britain that I want. But also what I don't understand, maybe someone help me understand this, try and explain it to me. Why come to a country, then diss it and say you want to take it over and make it Islamic when you have fled an Islamic country in the first place? Why not stay in Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq or Iran? I don't get it. What am I missing?
Because usually it's because they want to be more extreme. History, that's why history
What,
kind of
more
shows
extreme
us.
than Iran?
Yeah, pretty much, yes.
Wow.
And this is the reality, is that we welcomed them in, we gave them a house and free doctors, free dentists and everything, all at our expense. We welcomed this to our shores, I'm afraid. But the thing that really gets me is people keep saying, oh, well, politically they might not get anywhere. The point is, the message is there. The voter base is there. And if you go back to the last general election, there was a move to try and get an Islamic party registered just before and in time for that election. So there is a very clear political movement within Islam in the UK. And the more people try and deny it, the more you look stupid, and the less time we have to stop it, because we've got to keep fighting amongst ourselves.
Well, and
this is the reality.
Can I venture? A cynic might also say that the reason that the Labour government have done away with the 2-child benefit cap is because the communities, the demographics that most benefit from that are Muslim communities who have 5, 6, 7, 8 kids.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm just
Without
saying.
any doubt.
On that one, you also got to look at the contenders to replace Keir Starmer. All have their seats under threat because of the Islamic vote.
100%. So that's why we see Labour pushing to the hard left. It's why we see, even on the right of the Labour Party, a push to make Shabana Mahmood the first Muslim Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. But look, at number 34 on our countdown, that extraordinary moment when patriot and friend of the show, she was here yesterday actually, Sarah White of Advance UK, was arrested for flying the Union Jack on an Epping Council building. Watch.
But it looks like the police are trying to cause a scene. Look at that! Look what they're doing! Look what the police are doing! What are they doing? What are the police doing here?
I mean, Peter, that was one of those moments this year, I think, where everyone was like, wow, the police are not on our side, because they are not arresting the most extreme hard left activists who are making threats, anti-Semitic threats often, or behaving disgracefully or behaving violently. Someone like Sarah White, who we know is standing up on behalf of women, is literally just unfurling a Union Jack, immediately arrested. Now, of course, weeks and weeks later, Peter, they sort of embarrassingly had to reverse that arrest.
Oh, yeah, but let's not forget we've had From River to the Sea, a genocidal chant pretty much every week this year in London. The head of the Met said, the Nazi flag required context. At some point, you have to realise that the police are a captured institution, and until you get rid of the chiefs of police across the entire country, nothing is going to change. The police are the physical extension of the force of the state. This is the state cracking down on people with opinions they don't like.
Well, it's the
That's
police,
what we're seeing.
It's the police being politicised. It is. Well, we know that there is politics going on here. I mean, can you imagine though, back in the day of Thatcher and Churchill, saying to them as prime ministers, "Someone's just been arrested for unfurling our national flag on a public building." That's what Sarah was arrested for, and it turns out arrested and then had to be admonished because they realised that the charge, which I think was being within some kind of exclusion zone that the police had fabricated for that day insofar as people not being able to step inside of, actually where she was not within that exclusion zone. So it was completely and utterly trumped up. But also don't forget, this is Epping. This is the same Essex Police Force. I mean, Peter mentions the chiefs here. We've got Ben Julian Harrington, who is the Chief Constable of Essex, who is an absolute disgrace to the county that I call home, frankly. He is the man that when you talk about the left, he encouraged his officers to march 50 masked Antifa thugs from Epping train station to the likes of Sarah and Orla and others that were peacefully protesting mothers and grandmothers outside the Bell Hotel. They marched those Antifa thugs that were chanting and throwing things at the protesters, the peaceful protesters. Not only did they do that and cause massive disruption in Epping a couple of days before that, but the next day, Ben Julian Harrington and Roger Hurst, the Essex Police and Crime Commissioner, the Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner, went on to national TV and radio to defend it and said it was fine.
And initially had tried to cover it up.
Yeah.
Oh, it never happened. No, absolutely. Absolutely. It was a total disgrace. One of the things that has shocked me most about the regime media's coverage of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle this year is how a real scandal involving everything that the delusional Duke pretends to care about has just been covered up, just been ignored. This is the African Parks scandal, and it's at number 33 in our countdown of the worst of 2025. And it includes the bizarre moment that Harry went missing in Africa for 3 days, completely out of contact with his wife, Meghan Markle, and 3 children, in order to spend time with a woman described as a mother-like figure. This is how I revealed the news. Prince Harry went off-grid and was uncontactable during secret 3-day visit to Botswana. The newspaper reported, and this is Charlotte Griffiths, remember. After completing his work with landmine clearing Halo Trust charity in Angola, he is believed to have travelled to the neighbouring country of Botswana last weekend. There, he is thought to have met with a mother figure in his life who lives in southern Africa called Tanya T.J. Jenkins. He calls her mom. She and her husband, Mike Holding, played a pivotal role in Harry's life for many years before he met Meghan. They were so important to him that he flew his future wife to introduce her to them within a month of meeting her in 2016. It is unusual for the Duke to spend so long away from the family home in Montecito, California without Meghan. Trips abroad without her usually involve a tight turnaround, with Harry jetting home after just 2 or 3 days. So, I mean, there's so much to go at here, Russell, so much to go at. Firstly, can we just discuss why the hell he was trying to escape his wife in Africa for all of these days?
I think that one we can understand. I'm being honest. I think we all know the answer to that one.
Chaps, surely the big surprise is that he only went for 3 days and not 3 months.
Or 3 years.
Yeah,
indeed.
indeed.
I remember the story and I thought, hasn't Africa suffered enough?
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
It's very, very odd. I mean, from a security perspective and so on, but also, yes. I mean, and obviously he was there originally to presumably emulate his mother's efforts when it came to landmine clearing. That was one of her things.
Yes.
You know, her 2 big things were landmine remnants almost from previous wars in Africa that were obviously blowing kids up, and obviously her AIDS charity work. So he's obviously there to emulate her. That, I suspect, has probably triggered something maybe in his small mind, and then decides, yes, to go off on some kind of sabbatical with the woman he actually calls mum. Apparently, he actually calls her mum, which is a bit strange. Maybe it was some kind of, I don't know, some kind of reset, some kind of spiritual distance that he perhaps wanted to speak about the woes of living with such a ghoul as Meghan Markle.
At what point do we start to consider that this guy's a threat to himself? Because, I mean, the entire saga of Prince Harry is quite depressing, really, because I remember when he was a bit of the nation's lad, he was happy, he was a bit happy-go-lucky and all that, and then he met that woman, and it all went downhill. And, yeah, it's sad, really. I view it as a sad moment because the way it's always all over the press and everything is understandable, but at some point you do feel like you're kind of picking on somebody that needs help.
But I know we shouldn't speculate too much here, really, but do we think that, you know, maybe he was having a real crisis in his mind and thinking maybe about leaving Meghan, and, you know, TJ Jenkins here, mum, has, you know, shaken some sense into him and said, no, don't do that, you know, for the sake of public appearance and the kids and so on. I mean, who knows? I mean, it does seem very, very odd to go off like that, though, doesn't it? And disappear out of contact for such a period of time.
Well, he's done it again, hasn't he? Where he knocked on somebody's door in the middle of London or something, if I remember rightly. That, you know, he has a tendency just to wander off, which I bet his security love it when he does that, particularly in Africa. But
well, next will have to be, of course, the man formerly known as Prince Andrew. Maybe we can get him to wander off for several months or even years in the Botswana wilderness.
Africa suffered enough?
I think it will soon be the man formerly known as Prince Harry. And that is the problem. That is what he's facing. And I think you're absolutely right, Russell, to say, of course, there has been a massive crisis of confidence this year. Numerous massive crises of confidence for Harry, because he realizes, holy shit, this is what I'm facing.
And maybe I want to get out of it.
Yeah.
Which is why I find it odd when he backed Andrew.
Deep, Peter.
Yeah, and I find it odd when he backed Andrew.
Well, they've got all that jam.
The sensible thing would have been to back his dad and his brother.
They've got all that jam to sell.
That's true.
Yeah, do that first.
They do. Which is not helping matters. But then, of course, there's the more serious side, which is this African Parks scandal. And I mean, what I found so astonishing about that, especially the lack of mainstream media coverage around it, is that Harry has presented himself as this champion of African causes, and then the charity of which he has been at the very, very top. I mean, in fact, in recent years, he's actually been promoted into a larger position at that charity, is accused of the most horrendous things, you know, involving rape, involving abuse of the locals in Africa, and you just think, good Lord.
Unfortunately, I think Harry and Meghan don't have good form when it comes to charities.
No.
And if you remember Archerwell a couple of years
yeah.
ago, when the accounts were filed, it became very, very clear that they were effectively taking money out of it, and the money that had actually been donated or devoted to good causes was a very, very small percentage of the amount
and
of money.
And only spending, I think it was an hour a week.
An hour, and if that, an hour a month or something, yeah. So maybe they see charities, I'm just speculating, as another form of PR. I suspect that's exactly what those charities mean to them.
Well, I think they do, Peter, but what's exploded in Prince Harry's face, of course, is that for many, many years, he was protected by the institution that he claims are so awful to him. You know, it was actually the vile men in grey suits in the British royal family that were keeping both of his African charities, because remember, there's not just African parks, there's also Centre Bali, which completely spontaneously sort of erupted this year in terms of that big row with Sophie Chandoka, who called out Harry for all of his bad behaviour. But the point being, Peter, for years and years and years, these charities ran totally perfectly because he had the oversight and the support of the British royal family. Since he's had to go it alone, they've been a complete disaster because all Harry is capable of doing is turning up, smiling for the cameras, shaking a few hands, and he has been exposed. And certainly his wife, who said that she could do all of this stuff for him, was lying. She has no idea how to run a charity.
Oh, it's ridiculous. But then again, I think he struggles to smile and wave and shake hands, if I'm being honest. It's one of those moments where I think he's realised how much was actually done for him
100%.
And how little he actually did. I bet he thought he was really busy doing all this stuff. And in reality, he was just given a colouring book, I imagine, because that's the level that we're dealing with. Because running an international charity is a lot of work. Yes. It's a lot of detail. And he's not exactly the details guy. So I always find it weird when they wandered into the charity bit. But like you said, they're using it as a PR exercise to get all the celebrity friends and they get all the photos and all the rest of it. It was never about the people or the causes.
Never.
And I think that's actually quite repugnant, if I'm being honest.
It is. And he's had so much time on his hands, though, Russell, yet none of this has been done properly.
Well, he doesn't exactly do a proper job, does he?
No.
The big question for me with this whole Harry-Meghan thing, and I think some of us have been saying this for a number of years, is what happens when the inevitable happens, which is that they will split up. There is no way this is a sustainable marriage or relationship. It may have been very attractive for probably various reasons at the beginning, but clearly not now. So what happens then? Does he get welcomed back by not just the royal family in Britain without her, possibly so, but will the public have him back?
I don't think so.
Given how he's trolled the royal family, the stuff he's said about them, the stuff he's written about them, the stuff he's done in terms of bringing the press to task, as you say, he kind of turns the press on and off, doesn't he, depending on whether he needs them, in which case in the past, obviously, he's very much done that, or whether he feels that they're overstepping by simply just talking about the truth and saying, talking about factual stuff. So I'm not sure he gets welcomed back, particularly in a particularly enamoured way. And I think...
I don't think so now.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens, because I don't think it's a question of if, it's when.
Yeah, and I don't think, Peter, he can be accepted back because there are certain moments that we will never forget. And for me, I can sort of put it down to 4 key moments. And I genuinely believe the British public will never move on from them. 1, going ahead and accusing the royal family of racism on Oprah Winfrey when Prince Philip was dying in hospital, literally dying. 2, destroying the late Queen's last 2 years when she, and we couldn't say it at the time, but obviously I knew, was battling from a very serious form of cancer herself. 3, being part of that witch hunt against Catherine, the Princess of Wales, when, again, Catherine was secretly undergoing cancer treatment, yet Harry and Meghan's allies were out there trying to spread all of these lies. And then 4, it again relates to King Charles with incurable cancer being put through hell by his youngest son. Yeah. I don't think we ever forget those moments because there's no coming back from them. You can't reverse the fact that you did that at the end, especially of the late Queen's life.
Without a doubt. But for me, I think it's the Catherine one, because let's not forget, Will be king, and I don't think he will ever trust his brother ever again.
No,
I can't imagine them ever being in a room alone ever again.
It's done. Yeah, it's done for William.
Let's not forget, though, he did also then later deny what he himself said on the Oprah.
Oh, no,
interview.
We never said
I
they were
didn't say anything about racism. But then let's not forget.
We have video.
Can I just suggest a number 5, which is the book? Spare. Yeah. I mean, writing a book, so-called warts and all, much of which was just exaggerated and made up, not just to expose his family.
You're so right.
And a family that he knows will not normally stand up and defend themselves.
Well, they couldn't.
They don't, right? But he did that out of spite, but also to make money out of the royal family.
No, you're so right, Russell. Actually, that book we can never forgive that book.
Available still at all good bookshops for, I think it's in the 50p bin
exactly.
out the back.
Was it worth it, Harry? Was it worth it? Well, look, on a similar theme, at number 32 of our list of the worst of 2025 was the launch of, let's be honest, the worst TV show in history, With Love, Meghan. Let's take a look at just one of the most ridiculous moments of the show as I, alongside a royal superstar panel, reviewed this monstrosity hailed as entertainment. Breaking right now, Meghan Markle has claimed she is no longer a Markle and is now known as Meghan Sussex. She made the shock revelation during an exchange where she was very obviously annoyed with the actress Mindy Kaling for calling her Meghan Markle. Watch.
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and loves it.
It's so funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now. You have kids, and you go, no, I share my name with my children.
Yes.
And that feels so... I didn't know how meaningful it would be to me, but it just means so much to go, this is our family name.
So not only is that not true, I'll come to that in just a moment, it's clearly yet another blow, another slap in the face to the Markle family, to Thomas Markle, who is not mentioned at all during this new series, even though her mum, Doria Ragland, is many, many times. So let me come straight to Samantha Markle. Sam, how do you feel about Meghan saying she is no longer a Markle, no longer using your family name?
Well, one tear left I go. Let me see if I can squeeze one out.
She's good at that.
No, seriously, I think, I should be like depressed. I think our now deceased grandmother would be happy at that because of what she did to the family name. But in jest, I'm going to say that, she had put out there that I, quote, only changed my name because she met Harry. So guess what? I think my brother and I are going to change our last name to Sussex. Let's all be Sussexes now.
You've got to love the Markles, don't you? You've got to love the Markles. But I mean, this was an extraordinary moment. First episode of the show, Russell, and it's like, I'm not a Markle. And, Mindy Kaling, how dare you suggest that I am?
I think really just to scupper her, maybe we should all change our names to Sussex so that it's so common that she won't want to use it. But Sussex isn't even the surname, is it? The surname is Windsor.
Exactly. Well, there's been so much debate about this. I mean, Mountbatten, Windsor, yeah. I mean, look at what Andrew ended up becoming.
Yeah.
Because of course the last name is different to your title, although there's debate about that.
And when it comes to having a county as your surname, it basically puts her there in terms of status in Celebville, up there with Joey Essex. Meghan Sussex, Joey Essex.
Give me Joey Essex any day over Meghan Sussex. I refuse to call her that. She's Meghan Markle to me, Peter.
Yeah, I just think she'll always be Meghan Markle. But the thing that really gets me is the amount of money that woman has fleeced out of some major media companies is actually quite impressive. Netflix, Spotify. She had them wrapped around her finger, throwing millions at them.
Idiots.
And I mean, there are some stupid people running these companies, aren't there? Because everyone could see that she was a grifter from the beginning. But I mean, I didn't think she was that bad of an actress when she was in Suits, but looking at that, my God.
Can we just talk about the show? Just
Please.
The Netflix
how bad
show
was
itself.
it?
It's one of those things. I remember when I was on a certain channel that I'm not on very much anymore, talking about this live on air. Talking about this live on air. It was very evident that obviously this whole thing was fake. So the house that she filmed it in was not her house. The people in the house were not her friends. They were effectively paid employees. The whole thing was a complete and utter setup. And then, of course, the products themselves became hilarious. And I remember saying on that particular channel, I have to watch this. I have to watch these episodes because some of us need to comment on them like you do, like Peter does. But you wouldn't do it out of choice. But in the end, you were watching this stuff almost like it was a parody, almost as if it had been written as something comedic. But the funniest thing for me, the whole thing, out of the whole thing that was the most standout was the fact that she produced the most expensive jam in the world at like $25 a little pot, which actually, I think it was kind of made in wherever. It wasn't kind of homegrown in Meghan Markle's back garden. But it was so bad, they couldn't even call it jam.
Yeah, legally.
They had to call it fruit spread.
Legally.
So talk about inauthenticity.
It's so tasteless and it's so runny.
Yes.
Because it doesn't have the sugar content.
I think it was crap.
Yeah.
It's basically the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, 100%. Did you like the show, Peter?
Oh, again, like we had to watch it, but again, you get sucked into it, don't you? You just hate watching it. You're like, is this going to get worse? Oh, yes, it did get worse. And then it can't get worse. Oh, yes, it doubled down on it again. It was absolutely extraordinary. But she's so lacking in self-awareness to realise that we were hate watching it. We weren't watching it because we were enjoying it. That's the funny bit.
You literally watch it through your fingers like this. It was so cringeable.
And by the time the Christmas special, which of course she's so woke, she doesn't call it a Christmas special, she calls it a holiday celebration because, woke people aren't allowed to actually say that we're celebrating Christmas. By the time that came out, we were all so done with it. People weren't even hate watching anymore. It's one of the biggest flops in Netflix history, and it will not be back. And I think she deserves that. But look, let's move on. At number 31 was a really serious one. The disgusting attack on patriot and then political prisoner Lucy Connolly behind bars from prison staff that left her covered in bruises following being jailed for that one tweet she wrote after the Southport attack that was deleted within hours. This is how I broke the news. She was subjected to the most disgusting treatment behind bars at HMP Peterborough, where she was told unexpectedly that she would have to move to a different wing into a dirty cell covered in feces where someone had recently died. Now, this was a unit designated for the most violent prisoners in the jail. It is a unit where she would have been locked up, or she is locked up, for 23 hours a day. Now, Lucy, who is a gentle, a lovely soul, when she questioned this move, it was immediately interpreted as her refusing to go. And she was dealt with in an extremely forceful manner. Indeed, the attack by the prison authorities has left her covered in bruises. Now, in a great credit to him, it was Reform UK's deputy leader, Richard Tice, who went to see Lucy in prison following that attack.
5 days on, I could see clear stress marks and bruises on her wrists from those handcuffs that the officers struggled to get off her hands because they were so tightly struck on. And that was the highest level of restraint and force that officers use. There's two lower levels. Lucy's, she has patently got a good track record in prison. This seems extraordinary maltreatment without any provocation whatsoever that I was absolutely horrified by.
I mean, Russell Quirk, the treatment of Lucy Connolly behind bars was, I believe, part of the deep state trying to shut her up. Now, they failed, and they failed in part because of the support of Reform UK getting on board.
Yeah,
your party.
Her treatment has been abysmal, and I think our authorities should absolutely hang their heads in shame. She is the archetypal political prisoner. I had the pleasure, actually, of interviewing her on stage at a Reform event very, very recently. And she spent an hour being actually very open to questions from the audience, which I think was very bold of her because, she's not a media commentator. I know she's on your show a lot now.
She's now on the Superstar panel. But of course, she was an ordinary woman. She was a voice of the people.
She was a childminder. And actually, those that criticise her, and I had a load of this stuff when I put on to X the next day that I'd interviewed her, and it was a very, very interesting, very fascinating and insightful interview. Lots of people on the left typically saying, but she's far right, she's a proven criminal, she's a racist, she's this, that, and the other. When you listen to her story in terms of how she was press-ganged, forced, coerced into pleading guilty, you then understand why she pled guilty. I'm telling you, if she had pled not guilty, a jury would have acquitted her, as many juries have acquitted other people in a similar position. I think that she's a force for common sense, a force for good. I think her treatment has been absolutely disgusting. The only sad thing is that because of her conviction, because of her incarceration, she can't stand for reform as a Member of Parliament. And that's, that doesn't sit well with me at all. So hopefully if Reform get into government in 2029, we will change that so that people like Lucy, who have effectively been kind of forced to plead guilty, unnecessarily, unfairly, can actually stand and be
her
representatives
conviction
of the
should be
people.
abolished. Actually,
Yes.
it should be abolished. Peter C. Barnes, what did you make of the Lucy Connolly
For
story?
me, it's a lightning rod moment. I think that's where the real divide in the nation showed between those with common sense and those that are on the side of authority and totalitarianism. And I think what I really liked was the fact that she came out of that prison with a mission, and she's not let it go. I watched that brilliant interview that you did, and I thought I thought she was going to be this little meek woman, really beaten down and all the rest of it, but absolutely not. She came out with full barrels loaded, and she has not let it go since. And I admire her for that, because I think that the authorities picked on the wrong woman, because the one thing you don't do is make somebody sympathetic. If you're going to hold somebody up as a terrible person, don't make them the charming one who's quite nice and lovely, and you know he's your neighbour or it's your mum or something like that. It was stupid what they did, but again, it was that moment where, again, it was like, how are they this stupid? And what country have we turned into where putting a woman in prison for 31 months was the sensible thing to do, whilst we let a sex attacker out through the front door with taxpayer money?
What was very notable talking to her as well, apart from the way that she was forced into that guilty plea, not given proper legal advice and so on, was the difference between when she was first arrested, and the police were lovely, apparently very courteous, very professional and respectful. And then they released her on bail, and then came back and arrested her a few days later, and were insistent on being not only increasing the level of charge, but also, she said, they handled her in a much more aggressive and robust way in terms of the arrest, how they dealt with her in the custody suite, and how they dealt with her when she was then in the cells for the next few days. It was very, very clear that someone from above, yes, the Labour government, and Lord, whatever his name was,
Lord Hermer, the Attorney General, Starmer's best friend.
Yes, they had then got involved, and you can just imagine these words being said from Starmer to Hermer, and then back down to whoever was in charge
and then
of her.
the then Home Secretary Yvette Cooper
and
as
Yvette
well,
Cooper.
not letting her out of prison.
And those words would have been this: make an example of her. And that's what they did. Hence, she's a political prisoner.
Yeah, she did the worst thing you could do. She embarrassed them. And they don't like it when you do that. They're very egotistical, driven people. And that's literally the worst thing you could do.
They want us all to shut up, don't they? But the great thing is, we're not shutting up. So what a year. What a great year. It has been such a pleasure to have you both, Peter C. Barnes and Russell Quirk, as part of Outspoken. Now, I want people to know where they can get much more of you. You obviously have your brilliant YouTube channel running now, Russell.
Fledgling.
It's getting bigger. It's getting bigger.
Straight talk on YouTube, nothing like the might of the Dan Wootton Outspoken channel, of course.
But that's what Meghan Markle says. You just have to put yet at the end of every
Dan,
sentence.
I don't want to blow smoke up your arse, but you've been saying for a year and a half, 2 years, independent media is the way
100%.
forward. Uncensored, unchecked, no Ofcom, no exec producers whispering in your ear, you can't say that, walk that back, and so on. The authenticity of this is something that I would love to emulate on my channel.
Absolutely. So how can people find it?
So Straight Talk on YouTube, or obviously I'm on Instagram, or if you want to have a go at me, as most people seem to do on X, it's just at Russell Quirk.
And Peter C. Barnes, you're on Substack.
Yes, yeah.
How can we find you?
Yeah, so literally just search for Peter C. Barnes, and I'm literally the first one that comes up, but I've got a whole spate of shows coming in the new year. I've got a big relaunch all planned out. So, yeah, from January, I will literally be everywhere more than I am already.
Amazing. Okay, well, you're going to have to come back and talk to me about it when you relaunch. But thank you both so much. Have a wonderful new year. And, of course, thank you for your company today. But don't worry, we are continuing the countdown of the worst of 2025 tomorrow with Lee Harris of Addicted to News and Emma Dunwell, the brilliant independent journalist of E Speaks Freely. That's at 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you're alerted to our new episodes. We're also available as a podcast now as well. You can find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from. No live uncancelled after show today, but you can head over to Substack for all of our royal content. That address is www.outspoken.live. The live show will return on Monday, I promise, as will Greatest Britain and Uni and Jackass. But until tomorrow, most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.